يعني waxa waaye dulligaas iyo haweenkaas jacaylku keenay waxaan uga bixi karnaa diinteena u laabano oo ah jihaad iyo icdaad.
On July 11, 2010, a national tragedy exploded as Al-shabaab insurgents exported their brand of terror beyond the Horn of Africa enclave. In the aftermath of the attacks, security agencies with the aid of the United States of America spy agency FBI and Britain's MI6 began to piece up clues to try and unravel those behind the attack. In the neighboring state of Kenya, many arrests were made as those suspected to be involved in the attacks were renditioned to Kampala. Some of them were closely knit friends. However, families of suspected masterminds continue to protest their detention. Emotions amongst family members of Kenyan terror suspect Mohammed Hamed Sulaiman ran like a fickle stream.
It was a circle of friends, and they were all doing businesses. And what I can say, they had prospered. And where they used to perform their daily prayers in Jamia, I think that is where it all started. Because it's a masjid, but it has corruption in it. And the government knows about it. So for them being strict and staunch Muslims is what brought all this. Like, if you try to look at the angle of all of them, how they were arrested and everything, there is just something fishy about it. Yeah.
Though Hamed Sulaiman's mother has visited his son, who is being held in Luzira prison on several occasions, she wants him released. His sister, who lives in a humble abode in the sprawling Kibera slums, claims the July 11th bombings in Kampala presented the Kenyan security agencies an opportunity to hand over Hamid, who had been on their radar.
Of late, Nairobi is not a safe place for Muslims. So sometimes we thought that maybe them being in Uganda is a blessing, because like right now they would have been dead. Let's see what happened to Abu Drogo. Okay, it didn't start with Abu Drogo. It started with Samir Khan and Mohammed Qasim. Actually, they were like someone like Mohammed Qasim is a revert, and he reverted in Jamia, and he was one of my brother's friend. My brother was the one who was housing him, and he's blind, for crying out loud. Until today, we don't know where he is. What we know, he was arrested with Samir Khan, and Samir Khan was murdered, and acid was poured on him.
Alamin Kimathi, a respected human rights activist who spent a year in incarceration alongside the July 11th terror suspects, gave a philosophical insight into his arrest. Though he says he faced a harrowing ordeal, he argues that it fitted within the perils of his profession as a human rights defender.
My experience came in at a time that I think I felt that probably Uganda, for instance, was only beginning to interact with the issue of terrorism so closely, very closely, and it had not had such a longer track like, say, Kenya had had before. And therefore, probably the nervousness of the country coming in with, laced with, internal emotions, the emotions that were welling so much in Uganda, then probably that could speak to the kind of overreaction that there was.
However, he described the extrajudicial renditions and continued detention of his colleagues without trial as a travesty of justice.
The renditions from removing people from this country to the other country without due process, without recourse to the laws of the land, either Kenyan laws or even Ugandan laws, were not observed. Nevertheless, they were taken to court, and therefore the courts have been, in my view, misused. It's a misuse of the court process, having to put people, to warehouse them, put them on hold, their lives on hold, Guantanamo Bay style, as we say. But now, if we cannot just say, let's interfere with the court process, again, that would be another illegality.
He argues that whereas there's a latent threat, terrorism has been fused into the toxic local politics which could fuel trouble. Kimathi, who has confessed that his life is in danger after a number of Muslim clerics, including Sheikhs Abdul Rogo and Makaburi, were executed in Kenya, says it's only through dialogue that the complex subject of terrorism can be dealt with.
It's almost 4 years now that the July 11th terror suspects have been in detention. However, justice still remains elusive for those who lost their loved ones during the attacks. The hearing will only commence after the Constitutional Court delivers a verdict to determine whether Uganda has the jurisdiction to try these suspects. Emmanuel Mutaiziwa, NTV.